Podtacular, the unofficial Halo Universe podcast, presents episode 687, Infinite Trailer Discussion, recorded live on June 14th, 2019. Hello everyone, welcome to Podtacular, the unofficial Halo Universe podcast. I am your host, Deathstorm.
And I'm your co-host, Godzilla T. And we're here to talk about the new Outpost Discovery trailer.
Although there was one, but no, we're talking about, of course, the Halo Infinite trailer. And to help us in our discussion, we invite a couple of community guests along, returning from, I don't know when the last time this person was on, but I was invited onto his podcast a little bit earlier this week, right after the Xbox press briefing, so it was just fitting to have him on this one. Welcome back, Fuchs.
I can tell you exactly when it was. It was 1 year ago, because it was the last E3.
Was it really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. Hello.
Nice. And then we also have Unikraken joining us for this one.
Hello, everyone.
Howdy. So this episode is going to be a little bit different. We're going to focus pretty much only on the Infinite announcement. We'll cover the rest of the E3 news next week, like the Halo Reach on PC, the Outpost news, a couple other Xbox-related things that are pertinent to what we're interested in. That'll be next week, focusing on Infinite just today, because, boy, is there a lot to talk about in this trailer.
Oh, there's a huge amount.
It is so much.
Cram-packed.
Yeah. We don't know how long we're going to go for tonight, but we wanted to do a podcast just to talk about Infinite because of how long it could possibly go tonight.
Yeah, we don't want to have any other distractions.
No.
So Dust, being there on the E3 floor,
yes.
What was the reaction?
So everyone probably heard that once Phil Spencer started talking about, like, hinting at the Halo game, everyone started to just erupt, and it slowly built up. And of course, we got the hint that Infinite's going to be coming as a launch title with Project Scarlet, which is some pretty significant news. Halo hasn't been a launch title for a console since Halo 1, since Halo Combat Evolved. So that's definitely a big thing for Xbox. And a lot of the stuff that we'll be talking about tonight, as far as the kinds of emotions that was trying to be portrayed through this trailer, was felt across the entire audience at multiple points along the trailer. You guys will know what we're talking about when we get to that point. But being on the show floor was so energetic. It was kind of hard to top the Keanu moment, to be perfectly honest.
I think it did a good job at it. Oh.
I mean, Halo was great, and you were right on the money, GT, that it was the very last thing in the press briefing this year. The very last thing.
Well, I figured that it would probably, if they were going to say anything about Infinite, it would be last. If they were going to have some little piddly ant, no information stuff, it'd be first. And when it wasn't first, I knew it was something big.
And oh boy, is it huge.
I tell you what, when I heard Phil Spencer talking about the Xbox and then talking about the launch title, I was just awestruck. My brain just went numb.
Yeah.
It literally it was a minute into the trailer before I even realized it was a Halo trailer.
Which is funny because Phil Spencer basically said it was a Halo trailer.
Mm-hmm.
That they were talking about Halo. And I had that same feeling of, wait, is this really a Halo trailer?
Yeah. When it first started, I saw what really screwed it up for me was the graphical detail. We have never seen Halo drawn this way, to this detail. And that threw me. Because honestly, it didn't look like Halo.
Yeah. I'm going to stop you just for a second and encourage folks who are listening. If you haven't watched the trailer, go watch the trailer first.
Yes.
How have they not watched the trailer yet? Come on.
I really hope they have.
I'm just saying, in case you haven't watched the trailer, go watch the trailer so you don't spoil this for you, especially the emotional ride that this trailer takes you on, because, oh my gosh, does it give you a feeling of Halo that you've never had before?
There's lots of different kinds of emotions that it puts you through.
So many. Good, and they're good emotions. They're very different and very intentional in what emotions they're trying to invoke by you watching this trailer. So go watch it, pause the podcast, and then come back and listen to our discussion. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's continue to dive into this thing. I am right with you, GT. I was so, I guess, kind of inspired or awestruck by the trailer that I wrote an entire blog post, which I don't remember when the last time I even wrote an article for Podtacular was. So I wrote a whole blog post. It took me 3 hours, Monday afternoon, and I threw it up on the Podtacular blog. So if you guys haven't had a chance, go check it out, give it a read. It's my first reactions with only watching the trailer, not reading any of the extra material or diving into what people have dissected in the trailer. It's just my raw first reactions to the trailer.
I just feel bad that I missed all the codes.
Yeah.
For the free stuff.
Like,
there's at least a couple hundred in there too.
Yeah, they were gone
I
so
went
fast.
through and checked about 50 of them, and they were all used.
I've got a code for you.
Within 5 minutes, like, I got up and I went to the computer and I was like, I saw some stuff in there I need to eyeball. And I went and found it, and every single one that I saw was nabbed. I was walking my kids through stuff, and I was like, wait a minute, that is definitely an Xbox code. And we started throwing them in, and they were all gone.
Yeah.
It was a rough deal.
I honestly don't think those codes lasted more than a minute.
I'd say that's right.
Before they were gone.
Now there's people screen scraping those the whole frickin' time.
That, I tell you what, that's a good way to do it. It fits in with the theme of the trailer and everything. I wonder if they're going to put out new ones when they do the cutscene in the game.
Ooh.
I'm guessing it'll be just more meaningful text in the game, just not Xbox Live codes.
I'd say that's right.
That's my guess.
They'll pump it full of weird stuff that everybody will have to parse out.
It might be more cryptic, or like there might be some underlying meaning as far as what the game devs know, but it might just remain like a mystery. Is like, oh, it's just random binary check codes or whatever.
Well, there was a lot of information in it, even just besides the Xbox Live codes.
Oh, yes, there was. But we should probably talk about the build up to that first before we dive into where those codes are hidden.
Well, let's get Fuchs and Unikraken's reaction to their initial reaction to the trailer first.
Mine was exactly like yours. Like, I was like, wait, is this a Halo game? And then I was like, it kind of looks like Halo. Like, there's a lot of military green there for it to not be Halo. And like, I was speculating out loud and probably making my wife and kids miserable. But it was really, like, at first it was really confusing. And then when he ran into the back, I was like, that's definitely Halo. All of the architecture is the way that it should be.
Yep. It really looks like the Pelican door really reminded me of like a door on the Pillar of Autumn. It had that. This is your human door. This is what they look like in Halo.
Pneumatic.
Well, what really threw me was the double airlock or double doors in the Pelican. I'm like, well, Pelicans don't have two doors. They don't have one. They only have one dividing wall.
Yeah, I thought it was some kind of other spaceship until later in.
I didn't know
don't
it
have
was a
two?
Pelican until later on. Until you saw the cockpit from the back.
I sort of always assumed they had two for the obvious reason of what he does in the trailer. Like, you going to expose the cockpit to a vacuum?
Well, no, they have one door there.
Yeah.
At the back
I mean,
of
it
the
would make
cockpit
sense
that
to have
can be.
two.
I don't remember seeing two in all the Halo 3 cutscenes. I always thought it was just one.
I don't even remember seeing enough. I just remember being blown out, so you couldn't even see. Never really thought about that. Yeah. It was not something I ever considered.
Another part that threw me off was just the completely different angle that you saw in this trailer, because all the previous trailers, it's still that kind of grand mystery, or it's focusing on some of the main protagonists or antagonists, a lot of the kind of larger than life characters. But we start out with this pilot, and I didn't even pick up on the fact that he was in a pilot harness seat. I thought he was just sitting in the chair.
Yeah.
Just to start off with.
Well,
But
your first clue that it was a Halo trailer was the badge on his arm, and I totally missed it.
Same. I missed it the first
I
time.
did.
I mean, yeah, he's got the UNSC logo right on his shoulder, and I totally missed it.
I did too.
Yeah, I saw it and I noticed, well, I thought I noticed, like, oh, that looks like the old UNSC logo, but I was just watching at 720p. And, oh, yeah, that's definitely the new one when you play it back in glorious 4K.
I was trying to eyeball what was going on in the background so much I totally missed the patch. I was trying to figure out what kind of ship it was, and
Well, and that's why, like, first reactions, you miss a lot. That's why we diehard Halo fans go and rewatch the trailer 20, 30, 50 times to get every
And that's
single
just the
little
first,
detail.
Hour. Oh,
Yeah. I think for everyone that I've talked to, there is a different emotion that you get with this trailer that Halo hasn't really put forward before. And that's with the family connection with the pilot and the little holodisc.
which I have to admit, that was an awesome touch.
All right, my question was, who takes a family video and doesn't get the child in the shot? What was the terrible cameraman here who only has the wife in the shot?
that's a good
Why
point.
is the kid off screen?
Maybe they didn't want to put a
yeah.
kid in there.
I need to know how this home video was made, all right? Because it raises so many questions.
Well, being that it's a hollow pad, it may only be able to display one subject at a time. Who knows? If we really want, they could probably make up an explanation for it, but I do understand what you're saying. But the way it's done, it really pulls at the heart.
Oh yeah.
And the way the camera work goes, as the camera pans around it, and you see the hologram twist. I mean, it almost in certain parts, it almost looks like she's looking back over her shoulder.
Well, and that whole sequence is a time lapse sequence, with the holodisc being the only thing that seems to remain constant, but the different angles actually hints at this is being watched over multiple iterations from different angles.
And I know I wasn't the only person initially confused by that, just because suddenly he picks up and you're like, wait, is that another guy? Like, where'd he come from? If you rewatch it, you see, like, you realize that it's gone through a full rotation. He's not there anymore, and there's all this stuff now on the cockpit that wasn't there before on the floor. But I guess I just wasn't expecting.
If you watch closely, the lights, the power meter on it change from fully charged to weaker, and then when he picks it up, it finally goes dead.
And I guess I just wasn't expecting it because that's a a stylistic approach that none of the Halo games have ever used.
Yeah, it's way more subtle.
That sort of, yeah, that's just not something we've had. You don't have that many montages in Halo in general. But definitely.
Well, this is the first trailer that I've ever watched where at the beginning of the trailer I was really confused.
Because it hasn't been any other Halo trailer before. And you're focusing on what traditionally in Halo has been a kind of a throwaway character or cannon fodder character. We actually have a backstory baked into this character that you first find out about. And the unraveling of the mystery has different layers that you don't know you're going through different layers until the next layer is revealed to you. So one, you don't know who this guy is. You don't know why there's a bunch of warning signs. And then you figure out that he overrode the alarms and then something sprang a leak and he closed that out. And there's all that mystery. And then the little photo disc is kind of the emotional connection. And then another mystery of where is he and is he going to survive? Because it's cold in there. So all the energy from the Pelican's starting to fade, and I don't want to get too far ahead, but it's just this layer of mystery that's all packed in, and you don't know how deep the mystery is until you get to the very end. Like, you think you understand where we are and what's happening, but then something new comes up, and that's all bubbling out of this minor character instead of a major character or a major phenomenon that we've seen in past Halo trailers. It's completely different.
Well, on this one, you also get to see a character that is basically, on a personal level, has resolved that, this is it. This is the end. I'm not going to make it.
Late Night's breakdown of it points out that he whispers goodbye to the thing as it's about to die, the holodisc. And I didn't notice that on my first watching. And that adds, even more of an emotional pull watching it again. This thing wrecked me just for a split second. I've got little kids and stuff and thinking about being away from them and only having, one item with them on it and then it going away. It's really heartbreaking. So it was a good opening to the trailer. Like, it really locks you in and gets a hold of your emotions.
Well, it gives you a hint that they're going to be telling you a more personal story. Kind of like they did in Halo 4, where, we got to know a lot more about Chief. We got to kind of see his human side. Well, we started to see his human side. Right up to the very end where, he asks himself that question, am I a machine? That's not what he actually said, but, he's referring to
that's the essence of the question, though.
Yeah, that's the essence of the scene. Anyway, so it sounds like we'll probably still get a very personal story about Chief and some other characters. So I'm looking forward to that. But the way they laid out this trailer, oh my God, jeez Louise.
Yeah, it started out hard.
I actually went back and watched, because we rebroadcasted it, and I went back and watched to see what my reaction was, because I couldn't remember what I did. And I sat there and watched it, and I'm just sitting there with just blank face. I'm like,
just gotcha.
Yeah, no comments whatsoever. I've thought about, cutting that part out and putting kind of my internal monologue up there in bubbles.
The trailer for me had a sense of knocking me off balance from the very beginning. And I don't know if you guys read the article that I wrote, but I basically identified a couple of key points that really knocked off my balance of what I was anticipating to be in the Halo trailer, because it's very different from any trailer that we've seen so far. And it was almost like being knocked off, like, the analogy I used was trying to learn how to ride a bike. Like, if you're still having to hit the ground with your feet or whatnot, it's kind of like you're still, it knocked me over a little bit to where I'm kind of wobbling. I didn't really stabilize and kind of get it until we got closer to the middle of the trailer. Like it was really weird, the sensation that I had, because like I wasn't expecting it. It's like, looking back on it, it's a good thing, because this is a whole different way to tell Halo. And for me, it feels like 343's finally gotten something that is unique to them to tell a story, but still fits within the Halo universe. They finally nailed some formula on how they want to tell Halo, and it's going to be uniquely theirs, but it's going to have a very impactful experience in what we're going to get with Infinite.
I have to imagine that with you being in that crowd at E3 yourself, with everybody else having a similar experience to that, it must have like really raised, like heightened levels of the experience for you. I have to imagine.
A little bit, yeah. Because everyone, for those first like 2 minutes until you saw Chief, it was almost dead silent in the theater.
That's crazy.
Because people didn't know what to think.
Yeah. I believe, the first part of that trailer, until you get to the point where he's getting
cockpit
ready to respond to the signal, it keeps you off balance. You don't know where it's going to go next. And then you see him wipe across the windshield, and there's Chief. And then all of a sudden, your feet hit the ground.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
It was...
You don't know where you are, and then suddenly you have that anchoring point of like, okay, I know this is Halo now. I've got a thread I can hold on to. I don't know where it's going to, but at least there's some foundation that I can relate to now. And that was halfway through the trailer.
Yeah.
You're off balance for half of the trailer.
I mean, you could say the same thing for the Slow Space Engine teaser too. But there were, until people like, even until they got to the Marines or whatever, people weren't like, what is this? I don't know.
I thought it was some kind of Jurassic Park game at first. When I saw the proto rhino, rhinos from 200,000 years ago, yeah, I was like, is this some kind of Jurassic Park thing? Until it got up to like the tents and stuff, and I was like, oh, I know that architecture, I know that shape. That's Halo.
Yeah.
I think for the Slip Space demo, though, that was more of a mystifying, oh, what's this kind of thing. But for this trailer, it was like, you knew it was Halo, but everything you were seeing told you it wasn't Halo. So you had a conflicting battle going on internally. It was like, okay, I was just told this is Halo, but this doesn't feel like Halo.
The fidelity
what is this?
Alone was obscene. And then also, Halo doesn't generally play with those kind of emotions. Like, Halo's making me feel about my kids. Like,
yeah,
that is way out of the norm. But it was good. They did a great job with it. It was just such an abnormal emotion to have in relation to Halo. Yeah, I'm on the same page.
There were so many tweets that I saw throughout the week where people were saying, I was not expecting to have these emotions around a Halo trailer. And like, it made them feel for those people that have kids, like it made them like either tear up or really feel for that moment. And to me, that's just like a incredible breakthrough for 343 to find an angle in storytelling that's going to let people latch on in a completely new way. And it opens up a whole new set of doors for an experience within the Halo universe that I think really is that spiritual reboot that Chris Lee mentioned in the blog update. It's a brand new way to tell Halo, but it oddly feels like it works.
Well, I think it's also smart in that, I mean, Bungie's Halo's had this problem too, but it's something that you're just going to grapple with more as the series goes on, is that you can't keep on having bigger and bigger stakes. Like at some point, I guess the biggest thing you could do in Halo is the precursors and the Flood come back, and then what are you going to do? And obviously, it's great to have those kind of big stories, but especially with stuff that is kind of unfathomable into us, having small stakes is good. Like, I want to know, hey, you've now shown me that basically what could be this game's foe hammer has a family. I am now invested. I know now more into this. I hope he doesn't die, because someone pointed out that basically every Marine or whatever who does the let me orient yourself, Chief, do the look up down thing dies a horrible death.
True.
So it's not looking good for him, but I'm hopeful he can beat the odds if they give him a name.
They have said that this is a character that we will get to know. And what I was going to say earlier is I was really thinking about this, and of all the Halo trailers that have been put out, I think this is the one where they really introduced a non-playable character in the trailer. I mean, they've put some thought into this character, and they're introducing this particular person to the Halo audience. So I think he's going to hang around for the whole game, or for most of the game. And also they have said that this is part of the opening sequence.
It is the opening sequence.
Well,
I'm sure some of it will change.
Opening sequence. Some of it will change, I'm sure. But there's also probably going to be more to it.
Right. But yeah, like this is the very first cutscene in the game. Whether or not there's like a supplement piece after this to like go into like leading into the aiming tutorial thing is another story. But yeah, everything up to that release date is the first scene in Halo Infinite.
Something that I've been thinking about this trailer is that this being the opening sequence for Halo Infinite is really bold. And it's not something that they could have done during the OG trilogy, because the audience for Halo has kind of matured and aged. And like trying to get 16-year-olds in 2001 to care about the pilot's kids is not something that would have been very successful, especially with the technology at the time.
Well, and it's also something I don't think Bungie was interested in doing. Like they had people.
That's totally
people
fair.
give Microsoft and 343 issues. I mean, understandably so, about deceiving trailers and stuff. But I think they've totally forgotten that there was the whole Remember Reach campaign with civilian lives that did not matter at all to the final game. And they spent more time on Reach, the planet, as a character than anyone on it. So I think this is, even though, I mean, it's still a military character, it's still probably one of the most human moments outside the Chief Cortana relationship, period.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even if
Bungie,
didn't
they
add anything
never
else in the game.
hesitated to dispose of a character when it suited their needs.
Well, apparently that was all Marty, as we learned from the Vice
Yeah.
History of Halo article. Let's kill people. It's Halo 3. Come on, let's do it.
I do think something you said kind of tipped me off to this, but I do think having this cutscene out there hopefully puts the marketing in a little bit better position to be more aligned with the game.
I really hope so.
I think
than it was with Halo 5.
I think they've learned their lesson. I hope.
I think they're mostly. I mean, none of the marketing campaigns were particularly like. Again, you had more emotion.
Halo 3's was pretty good,
but the entire
like,
Believe campaign was totally. It was a battle that never happened in the game with characters we never saw, like giving a great story. Like I can appreciate. I think the issues with Halo 5's marketing had less to do with the actual marketing and more how they phrase things. Like the whole fact that Chief was going to be a minor character, basically, et cetera, et cetera.
In my opinion, they oversold the story. You know, they sold it as this epic battle back and forth between Locke and Chief, and it wasn't.
Yeah, that's just the setup for the main instigator, I guess.
I get what they were trying to accomplish, but like I said, I think they just oversold the yin and the yang too much.
I have a feeling that,
you know, when we got the game, we got a little bit of yin and a whole lot of yang. You know, it didn't fit with the feel of the marketing campaign.
I feel like they're just going to double down really hard on Chief and like all the the marketing's going to be like, hey, this guy you like, he's in this one.
Master Chief.
Really,
Master
he
Chief.
is.
Master Chief.
Master Chief. Master Chief.
With his power legs. Yeah, I think that's
Get
what
our
they're gonna
latest
do.
9-inch action figure of Master Chief
I definitely don't think they're
in
going to
his
be like
classic
Power
Halo
Thirst.
3 armor.
Master Chief edition.
Halo Infinite, protect the pilot.
Did you hear about the new Mega Constructs? It's basically I think it's a 9 or 12-inch, like fully
Master Chief?
posable Master Chief.
Yeah.
I saw that one. It's interesting.
So I think when they talk about doubling down on Chief, that's really what they're going to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
Like, yeah, he's going to be the main character in this, but we're just going to hit you over the head that he's in this one, guys.
He definitely is. I think that's kind of been the whole learning experience,
You know, when
to say the least, from
pilot
Halo 5.
wipes his hand across the glass and you see
Frosted
the Chief
window.
inside, first thing I saw was the space diaper. I was like, yep.
The most important
Yeah.
things.
And then I saw the pauldrons, the shoulder pads next. I was like, oh yeah, they went with those. I was really happy that they went with kind of that Halo Legends the package kind of style for the shoulder pads. I thought that was a really good decision.
Yeah, so do we want to talk about the armor?
I mean, this is the point in the trailer where it gets revealed. I think this is a good time.
I think we're pretty much there. I would like to actually say one thing before we move on to the Chief reveal part. Can we just appreciate how good the Slip Space engine looks with all the shadows and all the lighting effects and everything that they did through that whole beginning sequence?
It's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
The hair,
Definitely.
like the hair, really got my attention. It looks great.
Yeah, and I think they did the Digital Foundry guys did a breakdown of it, and they spent a lot of time highlighting the flaws of it, which I appreciated because it sort of sells the idea that this is probably something close to what, I mean, you're definitely not going to get this on Xbox One, but what the Scarlet will be capable of, because they point out, well, there's still some low-res shadow maps here, and like, well, there's the blur has this sort of thing, which if it were just smoke and mirrors, they would totally clean up. But the fact that it's so, despite those limitations, it's so clean, like there aren't jagged edges, it's so clean and smooth, like that makes me really hopeful. I'm like, oh wow, there's actually a chance this is going to really look like this. It's not just what you get in the trailer.
Well, yeah, it's not the first time that they've done trailers or run trailers on the in-game engine. A lot of the Halo 3 trailers were run that way. Like
Well,
the
they
Bleed
had
trailer.
the they
that one was an
spun it around.
in-engine demonstration.
But even there, it looked nicer than the actual game, just because they had like the reflections and stuff. They didn't end up
The
using.
engine, all it had to do was focus on making it look pretty. You know, they didn't have to worry about controller inputs or anything like that, or dealing with loading more stuff in the background, you know, loading the next level in the background and stuff like that. They could just focus on that. But it was still close to what we got in Halo 3. Yes, the trailer did look better than what we got in Halo 3, but it still was a good representation.
I also really hope that this is an indication that we'll get back to real-time cinematics, because especially with Halo 4 and less with Halo 5, because Halo 5's, I think they basically took the same assets and made them prettier and added post-processing and stuff. But to this day, I remember booting up Halo 4, you get that awesome cutscene of Halsey, and you're like, oh my god, what's going on? How's this going to tie in? And then it smash cuts to real time, the Dawn floating in space, and it looks like a janky piece of crap. Because you've gone from this, like, we have a million particles in this pre-rendered thing to, yeah, and now this has to run on the Xbox 360. And the graphics in that game were incredible, but it looked terrible just in comparison. So I've always, and the same thing with Halo 2 Anniversary. Like, I love Blur's cutscenes, but I like not being taken out of the game as much. And so I really hope that we get that in this one.
Personally, I'm a fan of the bookend Blur cutscenes, start and the end. But I can totally see why you feel that way, and I can totally see why it would be jarring. But with Scarlet, it might be less jarring.
Well, I was
That's
going to
true.
say, look at the quality, because this is in-game footage.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
This is Slipspace Engine doing this work, and I mean, it's not as good as the blur cutscene, but it looks pretty dang close.
But I think in some respects it looks better just because I think the blurry guys go over top with like, hey, let's add chromatic aberration and let's do this crazy focus stuff. That I kind of appreciate. Yeah, it looks more like a video game, but I'm playing a video game. I don't need all this extra stuff on the screen.
Well, they with the blur cutscenes, they try to bring make it more realistic than they typically do in the video game cutscenes. Sorry, but I mean, even in this one, there's a definite difference that you can see when it switches from playing the cutscene to being gameplay.
Well, and I might be reading into this scene a little too much, but I think there may have been something that kind of hinted at that a little bit and I know we're jumping ahead a little bit, but whenever you're in Chief's visor view and then he breaks out walking away, like could that seamless transition be from cutscene to being back into Chief's head?
That'd be really nice.
Could we actually see a seamless cutscene to gameplay transition in Halo like we've never seen before?
Well, see, the actual graphical change I'm talking about is actually before that. When Chief's visor first boots up and the lights turn on, you can see a graphical difference. The video looks less film oriented and more video game oriented. There's a significant change there that you can see from the moment and granted, there's a huge lighting shift too, but even this pilot's face, it changes. It's almost like the texture of the skin changes.
That's a good point.
Well,
I know
it's
what you're
not
talking
like
about.
the hero model you're getting close up with in the cutscenes.
I think you're
it's
right.
The game model.
Yeah.
I didn't pick up on that.
Don't get me wrong, it still looks great. But that is the part that I was most interested in, because that looked like that would be what you would see playing the game, which looked really well. I was really impressed with it.
Well, to Dust's point, I do think it's one of those things that I have an article. I haven't finished writing about this actually, but one of the things that Halo Combat Evolved does really well is that there's almost never any sort of break, even with cutscenes to gameplay. Like, all right, we're going to go down this chute with the Pelican, and next shot, we're going up the chute with the Pelican. We go actually like zoom into Chief's face or helmet when they're switching into gameplay. That it is pretty seamless like that. And if they could do like what you're saying, where you just snap into his helmet and then back out, that would really be the successor to that sort of treatment.
And we've never seen it in Halo before, just having a seamless transition like that, I don't think.
Mm-mm.
It's always a
Not
fade to
clean.
white or fade to black, just to change it over.
And
Yeah,
it
there's
could
some
also
kind of
just
fade
be
in there that to make the transition.
the benefit of having an SSD, so you can stream all that stuff fast enough.
Mhm.
Well, if all the content's loaded in the scene, you don't need a split in just changing from scene view into Master Chief helmet view.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it all
Yeah.
depends on the implementation, but I'm so excited about that SSD. God.
Oh yeah, me too.
I do hope they have the foresight enough to maybe make it upgradable. Maybe.
I mean, probably you could just do what you do now and just hang off a USB 3 thing off the side of your Xbox. Because you can do that now, but it's not optimized for SSDs, so you aren't getting that much of a speed boost. I don't know why they stuck 5400 RPM hard drives in the consoles, though. Even in 2013, that was ridiculously slow.
Well, it had a lot to do with cost, but anyway.
Chief's armor.
Dude.
Chief's armor! Chief's armor! More Chief's armor! I was impressed with the armor. I was hoping for more of a blend between the current armor and the change back to the more classic armor.
I think all of us before the podcast discussed having that same kind of opinion.
Yeah. It's something that, for new players, it's not going to make a hill beans difference. They're going to like it the way it is. It is a good looking armor. But I was hoping for a little bit more subtle shift to the classic art style.
There was
They did maintain the bulk that the newer armors have. Chief still looks like a weightlifter.
Thick, I believe.
Yeah, thick. He doesn't look like this beanpole. Like some of the earlier Chiefs, they were actually looked really thin.
Even Halo 2 Anniversary, he definitely has that
stringy.
going on.
Yep.
Yeah.
But boy, is new Chief thick.
Yes, he is.
They had a Twitter. It was interesting to read. So there was all the cosplayers who were upset about Thick Chief because in going back to the Bungie-esque design, they made a suit that you're really not going to be able to walk around in well, which I understand being upset about that. But they had, I think it was on Toa Freak, Halo Cannons started a thread where people brought out all the images and like, so what exactly did they take from the modern Halo 4, Halo 5 armor? And really it comes down to some stuff on the back. That's fundamentally the biggest difference between that and then the Legends package armor. It's slightly more streamlined and it has some stuff going on like the Halo 4 armor. But other than that, it's basically old Halo Legends package armor. Right down to the 117.
The community was screaming for a more classical art style.
Are you not entertained?
It looks like that's what they're going to get.
I just hope they explain it. Give me the 2 or 3 lines that they busted us out of mothballs or blah, 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 blah.
Well, it's Gen 3.
Supposedly,
so
according to the Chief's boot up screen, this is a brand new suit of armor. It was actually commissioned. It was completed in 2559. It was updated.
from the time frame of this trailer, that could still be busting out of mothballs because it's been 2+ years.
Yeah, but it's still newer than what he finished.
Yeah, it's not an old
with.
Mark IV or whatever.
If I remember correctly, the armor is created 4 months after Halo 5. And then it gets a firmware update like a year later or something like that.
Actually, it's a couple years. So it was created by Materials Group on the 10th of February, 2559. And then the firmware of the suit was last modified by Dr. Halsey on the 19th of September, 2561.
Yeah, so we're even later than the Slip Space Engine teaser suggested.
Right, because that teaser date was the 27th of May, 2560. And there's a whole theory behind that, too, which we could probably get into a little bit later as well. Before we jump back into the Chief stuff, though, I wanted to quickly touch on the point where the holodisc ran out of power, and you heard the ping of the friendly IFF tag detected. And I really appreciated the effort that 343 put into really showing that the pilot had pretty much lost hope at that point. And it took until the third ping, the second time where the AI said it was a friendly contact, before he responded to it. Like he had to crawl out emotionally of that despair that he was in to respond.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was such a powerful moment in that trailer.
There's one more thing right after that sequence, when he actually calls out on the radio, it harkens back to Fullhammer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, 216 or whatever.
Yeah.
Yep.
They picked that number for a reason. Because when he said it, when I heard him say it the first time, I'm like, he didn't just say 419, did he? At first I thought he did, and until I kind of processed it for a minute, I'm like, no, they wouldn't do that.
He's just really desperate to deliver his warthog, and anybody's out there.
But I liked how they kind of put that in there for the people that are Halo nerds, because not everybody would get that.
It'll be interesting to figure out when the lore community figures out what the numbers are for.
Yeah. But they picked those numbers for a reason.
Ecclesiastes 2:16. I don't know.
Because wasn't 419, wasn't that the birthday of the actor that played Fohammer, or some other significant date?
That's a good question. I do not know.
Honestly, that's beyond me.
Yeah, that's too obscure for me.
I'd look it up, but my keyboard is super clacky.
Oh yeah, mechanical? Can't do any of that.
Yeah. Also, they have the quieter key switches, but since I'm on a Mac, they don't make that one, so I go full throttle.
Yeah.
Sounds like somebody dumping Legos.
That's why we edit it in post.
Yeah, there's somebody here that's got the machine gun fingers.
I definitely can whenever I'm typing. But I just wanted to bring that up before we jumped into to the chief part, because it reinforces the emotional feelings that 343 is really wanting to portray in this. And I got a chance to talk to Chris Lee around the Halo booth at E3 and talking with just how the feelings really progressed. And he mentioned that was kind of the intent of what they were going for with this trailer, is to really bring out some of those different emotions that we really haven't seen in Halo before.
Well, they did a great job, at least for me. They got me good.
I should ask, this is as good a time as any, what is that guy's accent?
I think it's space Hispanic.
Yeah,
because
space Hispanic.
Like,
I was thinking he was Hispanic,
and I think that makes sense, because a huge portion of the Halo community is like in Mexico. Like a lot of even Sins of the Prophets, our Facebook page, the followers, a huge chunk of them are from Mexico. So it wouldn't surprise me if that character, being Master Chief's new best friend, is Tool to try to bring that audience in closer.
Well, I mean, there's always been, people don't realize there's been a decent mix of ethnic groups in the Marines.
Oh, for sure.
Wait, I forgot.
They haven't
Halo
all been
2, where
average
Hispanics run Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's
it's Johnson and then a bunch of Hispanic people.
And there's a huge region in the UNSC region of the Orion arm of the Milky Way galaxy. Like there's a huge section where it seems like it's like space Latin America, where like everything has that. Well, I know that comes off a little weird, but I mean like Gao has a ton of stuff, and the other surrounding areas, Venezia, that all has like the naming and the accents are kind of described that way. It's and when they do the audio books, like the accent that I think it's Scott Brick tries to use for them, it all comes off very Latin American, and I think that's deliberate, and it seems like that's a pretty large region of space, like in universe. So it's interesting.
Yeah, the only thing I don't like about Scott Brick is whenever he starts talking elites, they all start sounding the same.
Yeah, it's really hard to do elite voices. I mean,
I get it, but they literally, by about halfway through the book, you got to really listen to which elite's talking to know who's actually stating the dialogue.
I thought he did a pretty good job with the most recent Dinning Blue Team book. I can't remember what it's called right now.
Silent Storm?
No. That's I guess that technically is Blue Team, but I'm talking about in the modern era.
Last Light?
Is it Last Light? That's the second one?
No. I can't even remember.
See?
Now.
It's the one after Last Light?
Yeah, the one after Last Light.
Yeah, it's the one after Last Light.
He did pretty good with the different voices and stuff.
Retribution?
Yes, Retribution. Yeah. But anywho, that's not Halo Infinite.
Hey, what's a podcast without a sidebar of some kind? Yeah.
And sidebars.
Exactly.
At least we haven't
sidebars.
gone on the Pokemon
Oh, God.
rant yet.
Oh, I can.
So can Dust.
Well, let's try to avoid it for now.
Classic shield sound, too, when he boots up.
Yeah. What I love about this is people are like, well, how did he get him in this Pelican? Duh. He turned it around and backed it in.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It kind of proves the point.
Yeah. You just didn't hear the backup alarm. That's what
Yeah, spacecraft
I
like
mean,
that.
really, if you notice when he wipes the screen, he's looking out into black space.
Yeah.
But when Chief goes back to the windscreen,
Oh, yeah, you're right.
he's facing the halo and the sun.
Yep. So he did turn it
So
around.
I mean,
for sure.
he just turned it around and boop. Anyway, back the Pelican around Chief, and then turn the artificial gravity back on.
He's also got that rig in the ceiling or whatever.
Yeah,
And actually, that was a nice
crane.
touch that I saw a lot of people mention. Is this is one of the few times you get a sense of how heavy
it is.
guy is, because it shakes absolutely everything in there.
Oh, yeah. I love that.
Just thunk.
The physicality in this trailer for Chief did an amazing job with it.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And I wanna talk about the armor again just for a second, because one of the things that I didn't like about the modern armor is that they look like superhero suits, and they they look like stuff you put on. But this armor looks like it's space. I don't even know what the right word is. It's not really just a spacesuit. You can see the seals and everything, and it looks like it's armor as opposed to like a super suit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does.
Looks more like something
definitely
practical than and less like a costume.
Yeah, the thing that really drew my attention was the seal at the shoulder and the armpit. That when he drops, you can see that kind of move, and it feels like that whole rig is like a tank around your body, as opposed to spandex with some metal on top. So it really has a lot of physicality, and I just love the shit out of it. I have my feelings about the armor going so far back to classic, but the physicality that they put around it and just really sells it for me.
Well, if you like your tanky armor suits, then obviously Mark V is your favorite, right? He's running around in giant polygons.
I really really like Mark V.
Huge
I
backpack.
have the Kota Buyisha or whatever little statue in my office, and I love the shit out of it.
Mark V for life.
Yep.
Well, I mean, in Halo 5, I run around in George armor. So anyway, I've just always liked the bulkier armor. I've never really liked. I busted my butt to get Recon for Halo 3, but it was more to say I got Recon than to actually wear it. And I actually didn't really like the way it looked.
You were a CQB guy?
Actually, I kind of wore a mix. I honestly, at this moment, I can't remember the exact armor combination, but it was a mix of different armor. Sometimes I had the Hayabusa helmet on. Sometimes I'd wear the classic Mark
6
4 helmet or Mark 6 helmet. Yeah.
EVA for
But,
life.
I kind of bounce back and forth. Yeah, as I said earlier, I really wish they'd gone with a more blend between the new and the old. Like you, I love the physicality that they show with him dropping him on the deck. Just watching that whole Pelican just rock. I find it very, very interesting that, again, the chief has burned out his power supply.
I like that reference too.
Yeah. The fact that
you know how much this gear costs, son?
Yeah.
Tell that to the unknown.
We all had
adversaries of this
flashbacks there. It's like, really? Come on. The fact that he's basically going to jumpstart him. I'm waiting to see the jumper cables.
Yep.
When he says he's going to overwrite, I mean, I'm like, okay, where are the jumper cables?
No, it looks like he's using. I use those cables for my Kino Flow lighting rigs at work.
Yeah,
they're really annoying. They got like 500 pins in them. It's a pain in the butt to get them lined up.
Yeah, they use those a lot in heavy equipment as well.
Yeah,
but
and I love that
it's a military connector.
Yeah,
you know, if you look at all, even today, you know, like mics and things like that, they use that type of connector because it has a mechanical lock on it that will hold it together, so they don't have to worry about it coming apart. The part that gets me is the absolute joy you see on his face.
And that's another flashback to the line from Johnson. Folks need heroes, Chief. Gives them hope.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They did a great job with the theme of this trailer.
And just right before that, the absolute fear. Please don't die.
Please don't die.
Please don't die.
Yeah. It's incredible. The emotions that they keep throwing at you. It's so great. So different, but so good at the same time.
And I love that they did a boot up screen for the Mjolnir armor.
Oh, yeah, that retro 80s.
You know, that's something that I've always wanted a hint at you know, what goes on when you turn the armor on.
Yes, Eric Kibu, it is now boot up screen talk time.
Yes. And there was a lot in there.
Besides a bunch of Xbox Live codes.
Right.
That lasted all of 60 seconds. Anyway.
Crazy amounts of information.
Yeah, there's a lot in there. And there are some references to some stuff that is ancient when it comes to Halo, the Halo universe.
Oh, yeah. The I Love Bees stuff. That's crazy that they did that.
And it has a nice... I think the boot screen stuff is mostly interesting. Or the most interesting part of the boot screen, besides giving us a closer time frame, is the questions it leaves with the AI stuff, because they have the no AI detected, and when he slots in his chip, it gives like a whatever it is, weapon containment or something, like a weird thing, which made me think like, is this like supposed to be a trap chip or whatever for Cortana, or just a new setup in the post-created world to try and prevent AIs from getting control of Mjolnir? Or
well, yeah, there's a couple of things in there. On the boot up screen, it refers to an AI. What did they call it? It's like an AI
anti-intrusion.
SPDR.
Anti-intrusion.
Distributed.
Yeah,
blah, 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 blah.
An anti-intrusion software for the Mjolnir. And then it also references, this is back to I Love Bees, a software that is designed to repair defective AIs.
Mm-hmm.
Who can't repair themselves. Right.
That, you know, they can't repair themselves. But there's been some theories that particular piece of software, because of what the chip says when they inserts it, that it's been weaponized to either contain Cortana, to or to fix her, or put her through final dispensation.
Well, and in I Love Bees, the spider was actually attacking the AI it was supposed to help, because the Pious Flea, the Covenant AI, basically tricked it. Yeah, so that was an amazing deep cut. I was surprised.
Should we just run through the boot sequence from top to bottom, or do we want to jump around?
No,
sure.
That makes sense. Order.
So, first line we get is powering up, and then basically enabling visor mode. We get line 2 is exiting survival mode, power restored, which kind of makes sense. Armor BIOS is Mjolnir version 12.something.1. that something in the middle is left blank. Created by Materials Group, February 10th, 2559. Last modified by C. Halsey, September 19th, 2561. Mjolnir Powered Assault Armor System Generation 3. So notice it's a Gen 3 Mark 6. There's the HUD passive load. Adjusting IPD. I don't know what IPD stands for, but probably some kind of input mechanism.
I mean, Kenneth Peters or whoever at 343, I'm sure, has the exact explanation for what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, he definitely does. And he'll never tell you.
Yeah.
They're going to save it for like the next field technical manual thing.
Oh man, I hope that's true. That would be really cool.
And then we actually have, I don't know if we've had this before or not, but we actually have an acronym for VISOR, which is Visual Intelligence System Reconnaissance.
Yeah, they did that in ODST.
Okay.
I think they explained that then, yeah.
And then in the middle of all that, there is preparing AI intrusion countermeasures. And this is where the spider thing comes in. System peril distributive reflex. So it's active. So if we want to talk spider, let's talk about spider now.
Well, I wonder, I guess the thing that ties in, obviously, besides I Love Bees, is I assume that ties into some of the stuff we saw in, you talked about Bad Blood, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
So they have Leonidas basically piggybacking bugs on the Dutch.
That's right.
Yeah, so I guess it's tied into that they can send some little malevolent piece of code after you and you wouldn't even notice it.
Well,
and
yeah,
then they had
smart AIs are able to break off fragments and stick them in anything that has memory large enough to hold them.
And then obviously it was one of the only, by my reckoning, the only good thing about Bloodlines, the comic, was that they showed that obviously not a human AI, but a foreigner AI, a monitor, could actually mess with the visual inputs of the suit. So we had a black team fighting themselves.
Oh, right.
Basically, which was a really
they also showed that in Last Light.
Oh, yeah, with the whatever.
Yeah,
AI,
with
she is. I can't not remember.
Yeah, I can't remember her name either.
Intrepid Eye.
Intrepid Eye.
Whatever kind she
strewn
is.
with Fred's armor.
Mm-hmm. So for all the complaints that they don't show the AIs being as powerful as they should be, I think they've done a good job in certain instances. That sort of stuff.
Halo Collector with the save. I should have recognized this from HoloLens, but IPD is interpupillary distance. So it's the distance between your eyes.
Okay.
Yeah, I should have remembered that from the freaking HoloLens demo that we did for E3 back for Halo 5. That's right. Good one.
He's also correcting
Good one, Halo
pronunciation.
Yeah.
Pupil.
Yeah.
Damn it, Kevin.
Pupil. The black dot in your eyeball.
I know.
It's not about puppies. I feel betrayed.
So we've got Spider, and like you guys said, it's the throwback all the way to I Love Bees, which is
amazing,
incredible. And then there's primary support system check, and this goes through a whole bunch of things. So there's a system check, power, life support system, visor, VHF, UHF.
And that's something that's actually kind of interesting. VHF and UHF are analog broadcast standards. They're over-the-air, old-school, over-the-air broadcasts.
Very high frequency and ultra-high frequency.
Video frequencies. Well, they were used for video frequencies until the elimination of that, and in place of that, they have the high-definition broadcast now.
I mean, it makes total sense in the Halo universe that they would still be using those frequencies to communicate. I mean, you hear all kinds of weird feedback when they're talking and stuff like that throughout the games.
Well, also, they're a relatively low-tech broadcast system.
Right.
Because a lot of their communication as of lately has been Forerunner enhanced.
Well, yeah, that kind of stuff, it FTL subspace communication, right?
Up until now, they relied on that type of communication more than, old traditional radio signal.
But it wouldn't mean there wouldn't be a backup of some kind of communications array, as in like the baseline system. And I'm assuming I guess maybe what would be considered the older UNSC style communication is probably over those frequencies, but they're still doing encryption and maybe larger bandwidths of those frequencies.
I have to imagine that a lot of that interference that you hear in normal communication is based on encryption and de-encrypting the signal.
Also,
it's just
the Mjolnir
traditionally
is basically the
talking
Microsoft
about
Windows.
Communication this far into
Got
the
everything
future,
in it.
The typical analog broadcasts are they're available but never really used. It's like AM and FM.
It's one step before you have to start tapping out Morse code. You send out analog.
Sure.
To be honest, I would be really surprised to find out that they had subspace communication units put in Mjolnir armor. I have not read the Spartan technical manual, and maybe it's mentioned there, but I hadn't heard of it before. I know that it was certainly notable when they managed to do it in a Pelican during the Karen Travis novels.
Yeah, and it was basically
it was amazing to have a slipspace drive in a Pelican as well.
That basically they only had what they had in Tart Cart because they were Oni's top
and
people.
It was
otherwise, there was no way you were going to get a. Yeah.
But we get down through this check, and after the boot up, some of the stuff is actually mentioned. You have servo check failed, and then you have PCA check failed.
Oh, we've got a couple other things that we missed.
Oh, we
so
did?
There's weapon check, ability check, and run check.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
But then there's another thing down here too. It says visor_sys.modules.common.bios_mk_III. So Mark III BIOS?
Yes. I think that's in relation to, I guess it couldn't because it says Mark. I was going to say I think it's in relation to being Gen 3 armor, but it might not be.
Could be.
Could be. I mean, the visor stuff could be marked differently than the actual armor itself. Maybe.
It's hard to judge because when you start going through the visor-related lore, like all the stuff that gets dumped into, I think, Halo 5, the customization menu, all the stuff Kenneth Peters wrote, it sounds like it would be kind of silly for Visor to only be at Mark III because of how many different companies at this point are writing their own Visor software. I don't know.
I don't know. It's one of those things. Numbers make no sense. Versioning makes no sense.
Yeah, that's true.
It doesn't make
500
sense
years
now.
from now.
Yeah. Software engineers are not going to figure that stuff out. I'm on Skype 8.46.0.60. What does that mean?
If you want to talk naming, look at freaking USB. You got USB. You have USB Type 2. You have USB Type 3. You have USB Type 3-2. Then you have
3.1 Gen 2. It's all going to be USB 4 without a space. That's really important.
Yeah, I mean, they started out okay. USB, USB 2, USB 3, and then we started getting weird. We got 3.1, and it's whatever.
But yeah, those last three fail. SRV, I think the leading...
Well, the SRV is servo check. The PCA, I don't know what that is.
I think that's the one that's stumping everyone right now is PCA.
And then, of course, AI check failed because the AI chip's in his hand.
Right.
There's nothing in there.
There's nothing there.
Says, warning, no AI detected. Then visor assist modules common something systems 2 failed. Then generating system report. Time elapsed 12 seconds. Total systems. There's a couple things that we don't see completely. But BIOS is loaded.
Yeah. And then there's all the hex codes for that say believe and stuff in there as well.
And then he's so happy that Chief woke
he's
up.
happy. Oh, shoot. When they zoom back out, where you're actually looking through Chief's visor, not just looking at the boot up screen, what impresses me is the fluid of Chief's movement. And this goes to the engine. The absolute fluid motion of him looking at his hands. Because, the Marine or pilot makes comment that there seems to be a problem with the servos in his hands. And you see Chief look down and, he just kind of rolls his hand over one at a time. First his left and then he rolls his right hand over, opens it up, and then there's the AI chip.
Yep.
I feel like those chips have gotten smaller.
Yes, I would say so.
Well, they could
Chief's
have.
hand has gotten super huge.
Swole.
Well, if you look at the chip in the not Halo 5 trailer, it is, it's almost the width of his palm. Long ways.
Yep.
It's absolutely freaking huge. But then all of a sudden now it's just a little bitty thing. But what gets me is when everybody's done this. You've got something in your hand, you kind of let it slide down your palm and you catch it with your forefinger and your thumb. You know what I'm talking about. You just kind of lean your hand and just slide the item across your hand. And the way they've done that in the video, it looks so natural.
It does. They did a really great job with that, yeah.
I mean, it's a fluid motion. It doesn't look calculated. It looks really organic. He slides the chip down and then you see him reach around and put it in the back of his helmet. And of course, everybody wants to talk about the serial number on that chip.
Can I talk about something real quick before that? I think it's kind of strange how the pilot knows so much about Chief's armor. Even the fact that he figured out how to stick a power cable into it, I found interesting. And then understanding that the servos in his hands had an issue. I find it kind of strange that a random pilot knows that much about Mjolnir. And I'm curious if he's even really a pilot or if he is some kind of technician that ended up in the Pelican.
It's possible.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, you could argue that it's however many years future, so there are Spartan 4s running around. Also, it's maybe like if that rig is specifically for a Spartan or whatever, it might be that he, for whatever reason, has knowledge of this. That's like a specialty or something.
That's true. That's a good point.
It didn't bother me. I guess there's just not enough details one way or another to really bother me about it. If they told you more about it, then maybe I'd be like, wait, there wasn't enough to explain how he knows that you plug in whatever. But
well, with the time frame we're looking at, he's been sitting there for months, so maybe he's had some time to read some manuals.
That's also true.
That's also true. That's a good point.
Well, yeah. So how long do you think it is been? How long it has been?
Probably with the amount of hair growth that he's had, at least 3 months.
You're saying 3 months?
I don't know. I've seen people speculate that maybe he wasn't sitting in that particular spot all that time, and maybe he's been bouncing around looking for Chief. I don't know.
Well, I'm not saying he's been sitting still, but he's been on that Pelican by himself for what I'm guessing it is about 3 months.
Yeah, the span of
because he goes from having a base, having the military cut to, having a styled haircut, which I'd like to know.
I could do that
where he found the hair care products.
I could do that in 6 weeks if you made me. I could not get that luscious a beard, but I could do the hair. You trim me down to military.
It'd take me about 5 years to get that beard.
Yeah, the beard growth in and of itself takes a while to get.
He might just be a hirsute gentleman.
It's certainly true.
Well, there's, I know lots of guys that, in 2 weeks can grow that beard.
Yeah, we need to see the pilot's no-shave November attempts to get really an accurate gauge.
Yeah.
Where the record's 343. I mean, he's certainly been in that Pelican for a long time, several months at the
I mean,
Yes.
long enough for him to go kind of crazy, run down the battery on that thing, and lose most of his hope.
But the nitpicker in me is like, where did all the food and water come from that he would have had to have used? Because it would have been quite a bit.
Better question is, where did he go to the bathroom?
You just use the space toilet and shoot it out into the vacuum.
Yeah. That's where it's helpful that there's that extra
I
compartment
really
on the
specs
Pelican.
on Pelicans, but I'm pretty sure most of them don't include toilets.
It's probably a little thing you pull out of the side. I mean, if they can do it on the space station, and you can turn it into a tiny little thing, maybe with a little funnel.
You know, until this moment, I had never really considered how Pelican pilots go to the bathroom. So
Pelican
thank you
toilet.
for bringing that to my attention. The world needs to know.
Something to think about.
I mean, we went through with the Pillar of Autumn, and there were no toilets to be seen. So.
Half the debris outside the Pelican is just...
Oh my...
That's what all those yellow blips were on the front of the boat.
Yeah, there you go.
Freeze-dried crap.
Well, now that you brought that up, there's actually a part that we miss. It's not overly significant, but when there was the IFF friendly ping on the little radar screen, there were two waveform numbers that I think GT, you might have to correct me on this, or someone else might have to, but there was the frequency 277.250 and 375.750. I don't know if those are within the respective UHF and VHF bands.
Yeah, I couldn't answer that question.
Yeah.
There is one thing we did kind of miss on that particular screen. On the screen there, it does identify Master Chief as S117. But down at the very bottom of that screen, and let me see.
Yep.
It does mention, or it does state, Zeta Halo.
Yeah, it says local ref Zeta. So local reference point is Zeta.
So it kind of, you know where we are.
I really hope so.
Yeah. I think with all the details in the Subspace Engine trailer, too, that's pretty much confirmed at this point. Seems a safe bet.
Yeah,
in the
UFH...
chat, Eric Ibu is saying that there was a toilet shown.
Okay.
I have not frame by framed it to look for this toilet, but clearly I know what I'm going to do with the rest of my weekend.
Looking for space toilets.
Go find that toilet.
Space toilets. In search of space
but
toilets.
in the very beginning, when the crate that he stands on to seal the leak, when he falls over, it does look like there's MREs in it.
Yeah.
And they do have those bars that are one bar is supposed to last you, 3 weeks?
Oh, freeze-dried elven
because
bread.
of the way it tastes. Yeah.
It's just reconstituting freeze-dried food in the back. Mm.
Oh, jeez.
All right, while this pilot is digging around looking for diagnostic equipment that he so happens to have in his Pelican for the Chief's armor, another one of those things that's kind of,
Well, or they finally have figured out how to use universal connectors, the USB of the future.
You're optimistic, I tell you.
USB 3.7. It's a weird nomenclature. But yeah,
well,
Gen 3.
Oh my God.
To have an actual diagnostic scanner for the Mjolnir armor. And, that's the way he puts it. A scanner for his armor. Not just a generic scanner. That's just, one of those things like, okay, you just so happen to have repair equipment for the Mjolnir armor?
Maybe there's more to this pilot than we know.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to getting to know him better.
I think we all are after this trailer.
Well, and they're being, I guess the question is, why are they being so cagey with their name? They didn't say, our new character, blah, blah, blah. It's just the pilot.
That's a good point.
Which gave me bad Rogue One flashbacks, but...
yeah. The pilot.
I'm sure that they will eventually reveal his name, but I wonder...
Yeah, when the game
makes
launches.
me wonder why they didn't. That's interesting.
They just want us to speculate.
Most likely, yeah.
Probably.
He better not be related to someone we know.
The most fun they have is to sit back and listen to us talk about their trailer.
Those poor people.
Oh, of course.
They know the answers, but they're not telling us.
They have no need to. The other numbers on that screen too were there were 3 numbers. There's an LX, LY, and LZ, which seems to be positional data, but I guess compared to the Pelican, because they're very small numbers. So it looks mostly just like positional data from where the beacon is actually transmitting.
And in the rightmost screen on the console, you can actually see like the radar profile of the broken up ring. I thought that was interesting.
So, all right, back to the Chief being powered up.
Yeah, boy.
Well, we get to the screen where he's actually inserted the chip.
Wait, so
Yep.
is the serial number? I didn't actually check this. Is the serial number the same as the chip he's inserting in the Space trailer? I know it's not Cortana's. We know that it's slightly different.
It is a Cortana serial number.
Well, it's Cortana.
It is a
up
CT.
one.
It is a CTN serial number, but it is the next digit higher than Cortana's chip. So, like I said, it's the theories on this have gone really wild. The latest one is it's a mendicant versus offensive bias paradigm.
I don't know.
Cortana is playing the part of mendicant,
Right?
And some people are thinking Roland is playing the part of offensive.
Yeah, that's one of Hidden Xperia's big things. The Roland.
Well, he's one of them, but there's multiple people out there that have the same theory.
Of course.
And it does play with the way they've set things up. I honestly hope they don't bring in another Cortana model.
I think that's more likely than Roland, honestly, with the serial number.
Well, see, the problem with that is now you've got the same actress playing both sides. And for new people, that could be really confusing.
I have a speculation. I think that we're probably going to get to see or experience or do some stuff in a flashback. And I strongly suspect that we're going to find out why the chip is empty. And I think it had a Cortana copy, model, next version, whatever, on it. And then whatever events led to him getting ejected out into space from the broken ring probably ended up getting that one destroyed or something like that. That's what I think.
Yeah, that was my one thought is the final scene, whether or not that actually takes place chronologically before the first scene that we see.
It does not.
I guess the question is,
it does not.
Do you have confirmation of that?
Yes.
So why does it show the ring breaking apart? Is that a projection of what's going to happen then?
That's kind of a replay.
That is a replay. Okay. And I know we're jumping ahead here a little bit, but Frankie actually replying to you, Unikraken. Yeah. So if you want to dive down this channel, I'll let you take it. I know we're jumping ahead here a little bit. Do you want to save it for later, or do you want to just address it now?
We can do it later. We're going through the channel in sequential order. I don't think that's...
Yeah, let's do it at the end then. One thing I wanted to bring up, though, that kind of leads me away from the Roland piece is whenever Chief inserts the chip, the thing that comes up says weapon containment device inserted. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Which to me almost sounds like it's a chip that's designed to either be like a virus to a Cortana and contain her, or be some kind of code that would capture her essence wherever she is.
Yeah, I honestly think it's there to actually contain and destroy her.
I think that the intent is to contain her and repair her, and if not, destroy
sucks her in like one of those Ghostbusters toasters.
Basically.
Right. So it's an AI chip.
Yeah, it could certainly be that. I think that's a very plausible speculation.
I mean, the other thing is that Roland definitely has. I'm pretty sure we've gotten his serial number, and it's totally different. It's not a CTN one. Although I don't think that makes any difference because
throws a wrench in the whole.
You can probably put whatever chip and AI and whatever chip if you wanted to. So
for sure.
Actually, we haven't seen that happen before. And actually, when Hidden Xperia was doing the streams, I brought that up, and there's quite a few people that think the chip is probably assigned to a particular AI.
I mean,
I guess the question is how much is hardwired.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a data storage medium. I mean,
but it's not sure how much of it's bespoke. Why not both?
Well, I mean, if you've got a good AI.
What do you think was in that control room that Cortana downloaded all those years ago that made her go rampant? Yeah.
I blame you for this.
The builders had filthy stuff going on there.
Yeah, Roland's serial number, just for references, RLD 0205-4.
I do not personally think Roland is a compelling enough character that they would want to put him in the position where he is opposed, like directly opposed to.
I would dispute that in that they did a lot with him in Saint's Testimony.
They did.
I think he could tie into it. What I think you're right in that they have not set it up at all, and especially with the backlash to Halo 5 and Halo 4, they're not going to rely on the expanded universe stuff to do that. There's just not been enough ground laying. Leaving aside the fact that it's a spiritual reboot, there's just not enough track to lay you down that path.
Originally, I thought he was going to play a bigger role in the next Halo game after Halo 5 because he got so he was very involved in the story. He got very upset about how they were talking about Cortana. Mm-hmm. But given everything that's happened outside the game in the industry world and the corporate world for 343, I really don't see it going that way.
Actually, do we even know when Roland became active?
He might be gone by now. That's a good point.
I think because we know Cortana kind of killed Infinity's previous AI. So I think he dates to around Spartan Ops. I don't know if we know if he was around before then, though.
I don't think so. I don't remember.
Hold on. Clicky keyboard.
Began service in 2557.
Okay. So he was after. So he's still got some time left.
A year, I guess. It's 63 now, right?
No, in the trailer, we're 61-ish.
Yeah.
You're right.
I mean, it's possible we could even be in 62 because the last date was September. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we're given a current date. We just know what the last modified date was.
Yeah, the last date we've seen was 61. So, but even still, he wouldn't be to the end of his cycle yet.
Mm-hmm.
But Roland is one of the few that have opposed Cortana. There's also BB. He didn't really oppose Cortana. He just made himself unavailable to Cortana.
Yeah.
Along with several other Oni AIs.
And the AI of what's her name from Hunt of the Truth?
Isabel? Oh no, Hunt of the Truth.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Saren, not Saren.
Gavin Carr. Gavin Carr's character.
Maya, or whatever. Right? Sankar?
Yeah, that's it. You're right.
So there's lots of AIs. But yeah, the fact that the chip is just like one digit up and then it has the containment thing makes me think.
Well, it is CTN, so it's.
Yeah, it's not supposed to have an AI in it yet.
I don't know, that to me, with the chip ID having Cortana's name and then the one digit above the previous build number, in a sense, it seems like it's something specifically to capture Cortana to me.
And then the thing I always bring up when people have been talking about, and especially going back to her comments in Halo 4 about if they replaced you with another Cortana model. There are still, or were, a bunch of freeze-dried brains still sitting around on Reach.
3.
Yeah. So there's
To this date,
open possibilities.
There are three brains or 3 Halsey brains left where they could generate Cortana AIs.
Yep.
And honestly, if they were going to do, going back to just the question of having 2 people going against it, I think Jen Taylor's done a good enough job with Cortana and Halsey, making them sound like 2 distinct people. If you had like a quote unquote fresh Cortana that was made from younger Halsey, I think they could sell it in vocal performances if it came down to it. I don't think that's where they're going.
I think she could do the job. I don't think that's where they're going. It would be really weird to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like you said, it's just you have to consider what would be the least convoluted option.
Yeah.
Another interesting piece of this too, I think, is just with the spider stuff and also the latest on when Halsey updated the firmware of the Mjolnir and maybe done something with the chip. Maybe it's a way to capture and fix Cortana. And I know another theory that's been out there too is based on the whole, there's 3 other copies of Halsey left, is that maybe this chip is preloaded with a neural network that's not an actual AI, but if you slap Cortana into it, it remaps onto Cortana and fixes her neural net.
Yeah.
See, I really hope that's not true, just because that gets back into the whole issue, which I want to say is totally wrong, but frankly, 343 has backpedaled on stuff, so they might not be. Just the idea that Cortana is somehow still broken, which to me seems like a misreading of how rampancy works, how the split personality things works. And then at this point, I don't see any reason to dispute the fact that she's cured of her terminal state in Halo 5. But people just have issues with the fact that she's doing bad things now. And so they want there to be some reason besides she's decided to do bad things. And I think that's just a fundamental difference of opinion about character motivations.
I think that it's fair to acknowledge that her terminal state and the potential influence from the grave mind could be 2 different things that weren't necessarily related or fixed when she went into the domain. Like, sure, her rampancy could be fixed going into the domain, but if the grave mind, infected her with the logic plague, as some people speculate, that wouldn't necessarily be a thing that the domain could fix. I mean, mendicant bias.
But then that's just one more confusing thing. That are they really going to explain the logic plague in the video game? Especially this one.
I think that's a very
there's a limit to what they can do.
Concern.
I mean, the explanation that I think fits the best is that we're dealing with not a complete.
It's one of those fragments that we saw break off in Halo 4.
Pieces of the original Cortana.
But I don't think
that doesn't have her ethics program or her sympathy or all those pieces she held back for that final cutscene with Chief.
Yeah, but I think the problem with that theory is that's not how we see fragments work generally. Like, it doesn't make much sense that she could just split off the rampant fragments, because if you could split off the rampant parts of you, why wouldn't you just do that to stave off rampancy indefinitely?
Well, see, the problem is yeah, you can split off the rampant parts, but it takes other parts with it.
I mean, like when we see Cortana split in First Strike, when we see BB split, they're not fundamentally different. So that's where I don't buy into that interpretation.
Well, also, you remember in the Kilo 5 trilogy, when he loses that fragment, it hurts. When that fragment is destroyed, BB loses a part of himself, and he feels that.
And I think that's there's a little bit of a difference in that too. I feel because in the Halo 4 part where she's basically explaining that she's breaking off her rampant parts. It seems like it's the rampant parts that she's already lost control of, and there's other rampant parts that are still kind of building up and deteriorating as she's going along. So she's already messed up. It's just that she's losing control of it, so she's just letting go the specific rampant parts that have certain data stores of her personality and just letting that go. So, and that's probably fragmenting up in ways that she can't control at that point, I would imagine.
Well, but then the fragments all work together in Dominion Splinter, the Tales from Slip Space comic. I think it's one of those things you can go either way on it, and I think 343 either because they want to try and placate people on both sides of this, or just for other reasons have been really, you either say less charitably inconsistent or just trying to hedge their bets.
Well, unless this has changed, a while ago I have it on good authority that the Cortana that we're seeing in like Halo 5 isn't the same Cortana that we've seen previously. So like the Cortana that we see is not the complete Cortana.
Which I think is just a cheat. Like, instead of grappling with, all right, your character is doing bad things, but that's literally why she was made. And they bring this up in Halo 5. Halsey specifically mentions, hey, Cortana's based on me, and I had some ideas about, like, creating super soldiers to violently suppress rebellions that Cortana might be with. And then in Human Weakness, the Gravemind makes the point that basically Cortana and him have similar megalomaniacal schemes. The difference is he has more power than she does, and she doesn't really dispute it. So I don't know. I just think from a character standpoint, having it be, oh, this actually isn't Cortana, just isn't satisfying. Like, why would you bring her back if it's just going to be the horror show monster version that you're going to prop up as cardboard and then knock down?
Well, it's not necessarily the same Cortana, because there was a part of Cortana that got left behind and not consumed up by the Didact ship, right?
Yeah. But the question is, I'm arguing that that's fundamentally a distinction without a difference.
Yeah, it's not an ideal explanation, but in the confines of a video game, you have to, there's a limit to what you can do. And I think they're just trying to fit inside that limit.
No. We'll see.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see soon enough.
Oh, well, not soon enough.
No, a year and a half away. It's
Not
painful.
near soon enough, but anyway.
Yeah.
A year and a half.
According to Chris Lee in the article on Waypoint, we might see something sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I mean, there's always E3 next year.
Well, that's
sooner than that.
definitely
It's
when
only
they
11 months
specifically
and 2
said
weeks away.
E3 2020, but whether or not we get stuff before then is the question.
Well, the way that Chris made it sound like in the article, we'll be seeing something within the next few months. More information.
Well, I hope it's beefy and not just like
Meaty stuff.
Tidbits.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's not going to be.
Well, I know,
Yeah.
but
I mean,
hope.
it's
gonna be a
possible.
tease.
I hope, damn
I
it.
feel like the most likely thing is we get teases at the Halo Outposts. That's my
Well, there's
bet,
going to be lots of teases there.
but we'll see.
And that's
Problem
in 3
is,
weeks.
you'll be looking at a tease and you won't even know it's a tease until
That's
after
very
the game
possible.
launches.
So
Yeah.
we're getting on that tangent. I think we're starting to get to the trailer where we get to see the ring, though.
Yeah.
we got a little ways to go. Yep.
Well, I mean, we got past where, he inserts the chip that may or may not be a Cortana chip.
So another thing too that happened is all the lights in the Pelican came back on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was getting ready to
See?
say.
His
Oh,
generator
sorry.
kickstarted the Pelican, too.
So yeah, the Pelican.
So Chief gets a jump start, and then Chief jump starts the Pelican.
I think so. So the Pelican and Chief both have fusion drives, and so I think what was left in the Pelican got Chief's going, and then Chief's fusion drive being back up and running got the Pelicans going. I think.
Yeah, that's a pretty quick recharge.
I don't know how this works. Magnets.
Yeah,
Tides.
Aliens.
I'm not even going to theorize how
Yeah,
it
I'm not
works, but
gonna try to
anyway,
speculate on a fusion drive.
Yeah.
you get a really neat transition from first person to basically cutscene again, where you basically kind of go out the back of Chief's head and watch him walk away from the camera.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
With the power lines ejecting from missing ports on his back.
Where the fuck were they?
On ports that don't exist.
Maybe it's just like a magnetic, like wireless thing back there, like a hot
It's
plate.
chi charging, is what it is.
Chi charging.
There you go.
Well, and that's what that moment right there is one of the things that I'm hoping is kind of an indication of being able to go from a cutscene into first person mode seamlessly. Because that's basically what just happened.
Yeah.
And then
Anyways,
Chief gets like one of his 3 lines. Stills.
Yeah.
And I guess that his response to it sort of is a good argument for it being on the longer side of things, because he's like just totally confused as to why he would even be asking.
Yeah.
It's like, wait.
I think from the pilot's perspective,
that's old news, man.
Like, there is no more fight. And that's interesting.
Oh, and they don't clarify because he goes to show the vista of the damaged Halo ring and says that we lost everything. And I kind of wanted the Chief to ask, like, but do you mean physically, emotionally, spiritually? Like, you want to clarify that a little bit?
Yeah, the pilot says, we lost everything here. And I like how they made a point of saying here, that there's nothing else here for us.
For a brief second before they
Wherever here is.
showed the
Right.
the full ring, for a second I thought it was going to be a destroyed Infinity.
Oh,
but
that would have been interesting.
Because we still have that unfulfilled concept art from Halo 5 of it damaged.
Yeah.
But so I'm waiting for that shoe to drop. But it's just a ring. And I guess the question is how much of the ring, because to me it seems like the ring is slightly in less bad shape than it looks in the hologram in the control room.
Yes.
Oh yeah, the hologram looks a lot.
The hologram also
than...
doesn't look like we know that the Halos can eject chunks of them, which that does not look like that. It does not look like that was a intentional thing, and it's basically just getting held together by hard light and Forerunner space magic.
I think that is an accurate look at it. It definitely looks like it's being held together by hard light, and that's exactly how it's described in the second book in the Forerunner trilogy, is that the ring can be stabilized with hard light.
Maybe this will shrink Installation 07 down even more, because it used to be really big and it got smaller.
To me,
30,000 to 10,000,
and so, thinner too.
That's oh yeah, it did get thinner, didn't it?
To me, it looks like, based on what we see later, the ring is very clearly getting repaired. And I think that's notable.
Well, and I guess that's another, if you think the final scene is a flashback, that's another good indication that it would be. Because that clearly, time has passed. They're getting stuff fixed.
Well, the hologram is, the scene itself is in the future.
Right.
What impresses me is, after the pilot tells Chief, that we'd lost, the Chief obviously walks to the pilot's compartment of the Pelican, and in the initial opening of the trailer, the pilot is trying to get through the door between the pilot's compartment and the passenger compartment, and of course it's jammed, and he struggles to open half the door. And then you get Chief walking up, and he just puts his hand on the other half of the door and just pushes it out of the way. With
Was this giving you a problem?
You know, it's like
It's been stuck there for 4 months, and then Chief moves it in an instant, and he's like, "Shit!"
just a test to the strength of the armor system.
Yep.
He just puts his hand out, just
Well, this is the guy that flips tanks over.
opens right out of his way.
Yeah.
True. He flips the tank.
Tank.
Well, that's no big deal. I've seen ODSTs do it.
ODSTs can flip warthogs, so
They can flip elephants.
I would say that clearance between Chief's head and the bulkhead is very, very close.
Well, actually, that was a detail I liked, is that he just walks straight through. He doesn't, like, I imagine Dust, as a tall person, you usually, like, kind of prepare to duck down if you see some low clearances coming, but he just, nope, walking through.
Yeah, he just walked on through.
I don't get
well, you know, he's probably spent enough time in Pelicans. He knows how tall the door is.
I would say so.
Not seeing the 20 times previous where Chief knocked his head in the...
One of the things to mention here is that he's got a dent in the back of his helmet. And that is not in like the box art and stuff. So is it that they just went with a simpler looking model for the box art that they showed? Or does him having a dent there is that something of note?
I didn't notice that before.
That's the part of his head where he hit the ring and made it break apart.
That's a good catch.
Yeah, somebody pointed that out on Reddit. It wasn't me. I'm not that clever. But somebody pointed it out, and I thought that was a good thing to bring up. Because it's a
also,
hard
I like
dent.
that his armor is pretty much immaculate, except once again, he's got like this scuff on the front. That seems to be where all the Mjolnir suits take the most damage.
Chest.
Right up front.
Yep.
Yeah.
He likes to slide down the hill face first, I guess.
That's Fred.
Yeah, the box art is kind of weird in that it kind of doesn't look complete.
Right.
Like the background is kind of all looks like it's just they photoshopped a bunch of stuff together quickly. There it looks a whole lot like the ring is in sections, like deliberately, like they ejected sections.
Well, yeah, on the box art, it looks like it's actually shedding mass.
Mm-hmm. And then also his
like in Halo
AI
Wars,
port is
where
conspicuously
Anders ejects a section of the ring.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it looks like it's being put back together, but that's also because
that's what I got too. I thought there was more being put back together.
Again, this is where Zeta Halo gets a lot of its lore built up. It's the second book in the Forerunner trilogy. There are scenes.
For the people who don't remember, that's Primordium, aka the book where people walk around and lick rocks.
That's true. Yes. But there are scenes in that book where chunks of the ring are moving around the ring and readjusting and stuff like that in preparation for what happens and then afterward, where it has a very close brush with a planetoid and it gets damaged. So, but yeah,
in the book, it also is it's replacing entire sections,
right?
Like outer wall to outer wall. It's not just little chunks in between the walls. It's replacing everything. It's preparing to shed entire sections, the full thickness of the ring. At least that's from what when I was reading the books. That's what I got out of the way they described the pieces as they moved over.
Right, it's entire sections, from one side to the other. Yeah, that was my read of it as well.
Where in the box art, it's more like chunks.
Yeah. I think,
and not really like just square blocks, just like boulders, chunks of earth being either compiled or pulled back in or ejected. Either way,
it's crazy, all the different things that could be going on with this ring, but we will have an answer and just a minute. I know we're kind of running a little late here, so we'll see if we can get through the rest of this.
Well, there's not that much left. It's just a bright light. Cut to bright light. Previously on Halo.
Those of you that have stuck around for this are heroes.
Yeah, no kidding. This is going on 2 hours now.
Or insane.
Insane heroes.
Two and a half hours on live stream.
Well, moving along, there's a bright light.
Yes.
Well, Chief moves into the cabin and he sees the halo with a big chunk missing out of it. And as we said before, looks to be held together by hard light. And then the frame of the Pelican becomes electrified and sparks and bright white light. And then Pilot goes nuts.
Like, not again, which is an interesting
Not
point.
again!
And so the obvious thing that reminded me and a lot of people is the Guardian, because it had that same bluish light from the end of Halo 5. But the other interesting theory I've heard, which I kind of like, because it explains the question of like when the Ark got damaged and stuff and the ring there was destroyed. Well, they had a planet at the center of the Ark to make more halos. If this halo is damaged, like, where do you fix it? And one person was like, well, what about Retriever Sentinels just scrounging all the probably broken up pieces of ships and stuff out there? Because it does kind of look like less like just light beams and some sort of field. And obviously it's having an effect on them. But it doesn't look like the Guardian EMPs that we've seen.
I agree. And I speculated that on Twitter, I think this morning, that I think it's a Retriever Sentinel.
Yeah, the only other thing I've seen, and actually Kurt of Onyx posted in the chat, was it does have a similarity to the I don't know, what do you call it, distortion effect of slip space. And those cause damage, we know, under certain circumstances. So that's the other possibility.
I mean, they're in the debris field of the broken ring, and obviously the Sentinels that are repairing the ring would want to reuse what material they could. It makes the most sense to me that they're getting hit with a gravitic field from a Retriever Sentinel.
Well, they've struck a gravitic mine and have lost all power.
I think that the intent is to make you think it's a Guardian, but I think that old Chief is going to jump out into space and beat the out of a robot. That's my speculation.
You just want Chief beating it out of a giant robot.
I want to have a little quick time action where I climb on it and like rip out something.
Press LB to punch giant robot in the face.
I originally thought it was a Guardian as well, but now looking at the effect and seeing a lot of everyone else's perspective on it, it does seem like Retriever Sentinel is probably more of a fit.
And the lighting in this scene is amazing too, in this part of the scene.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, the lighting, the motion capture, everything. It just
can't wait for RTX on.
It fits.
Well, because after that, so the pilot freaks out, not up again, and we need to run. And Chief is like, "No, we need to fight." Just shoves him in the cockpit, and then we get to see another great light. Is he turns on his helmet?
Oh yeah,
lights.
That's another.
And the fall off on that and stuff as he's sweeping it around the Pelican Bay is super nice.
That's a really good point.
And
are we going to talk about the AR?
Oh yeah.
I don't want to talk about the AR.
Yep.
I want to.
Yep.
Because it pains me. The people who think the Reach AR was the best AR are all objectively wrong.
I think that the Reach...
visually it looked good.
I think that the Reach AR better matches all of the other weapons that you see. Like, the DMR has a very utilitarian look. The BR, depending on which version, has a very utilitarian look. But when you look at the AR, it doesn't match the other. It's not as angular. It's all smooth. It looks more futury.
Well, I'd argue that's the problem with every game after CE, because in CE, all the human weapons had that like kind of inscrutable, advanced
beveled
black thing going on.
That's true.
And then they got, even before 343, people give them crap for everything, but Bungie was over designing the heck out of their stuff too.
Yeah, there's plenty to blame on Bungie as well.
So, but I do think you're right that it does not fit as well. I just didn't like the Reach AR as much. This looks like a slightly nicer version of it, from what we can see. But I mean, I guess it doesn't actually even, unlike the other stuff, like the insignia change and his armor, it doesn't actually, I guess this could just be the army has kept using the same AR since Reach.
And you could hypothetically end up getting different ARs in the campaign. This is just the one you get out of this Pelican.
Except we're not going to.
You don't know.
I mean, that would be awesome, but
I mean, they got
like, just how much
10,000 guns in Halo 5.
I mean, that's true. I guess it's more likely.
The deal is the one thing you've got to think is looking at this and looking at timelines, we've been fighting for a while. And with the major population centers shut down by Guardians, there's no manufacturing going on.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
So the UNSC is relying on their stores wherever they might be.
Smooth guns.
And they're also
we got to go to the chunky ones, sir.
I'm sure they're working with the insurrectionists as well, which they're not going to have the latest and greatest.
That's a really
weapons.
good point.
So then, where's my MA5K for the deep lore cut? Right after they gave us SPI armor. And
I want an entire game based around SPI armor, like some kind of ONE thing or something.
I mean, that would be a good ODST2.
Yes, it would.
But yeah.
Eric Caboose saying, put those Hergoks to work. Have them be the factories.
I'm just picturing a factory line of Hergoks with little hairnets and clean rooms, and they're just putting together guns on a little assembly line. It'd be really cute.
It'd be funny, yeah. I do like, before the Pelican Bay's doors open, the lighting effect that you see whenever Chief brings the assault rifle across his visor.
Oh, yeah.
All that real-time lighting effect.
Another
it's super nice.
Point. Yep.
It's just, wow, Slipspace just looks really, really good.
Got that ray tracing going.
Mm-hmm.
Just imagine how great all the spaceships are. I got to nerd out about that for a second.
Yeah.
Well, we'll just have to imagine, because you open up the
somebody has
doors,
a fixation with spaceships.
Why? That's so strange. I mean, that's not your thing at all.
It's the graphitic field. Or you jump out into that and it goes into a flashback mission. How did the Chief get there?
I mean, that's possible too.
Oh, I'm going to tell you before you fight the robot.
Before left bumper to punch robot in the face.
Yes. XXB
3 months previously.
Grenade. Like you punch a hole, you rip it open, you stick the grenade in.
No, for another deep cut, it'll be like right trigger to fire assault rifle or whatever it was in MCC until they fix it.
Now, I will say this part where they reveal that Halo Infinite's coming holiday 2020, I liked all the nods back to the previous Bungie style stuff before, but the very heavy hitting Halo CE like theme, it was very abrupt compared to the mood that was set in the previous scene. Even like the build up after Chief said that we need to fight, just that hard cut over to that old Halo theme was just too much.
I thought it was a little jarring too. I felt like it was a little cheesy, to be honest. When they did that, I was like, man, that's leaning into that old stuff way too hard. It's like, hey, remember when you used to really like Halo before your grandparents died, before your parents got divorced? There you go. That's what this game is going to be.
I wrote the same thing in the blog post that I wrote. Is at that point it was like, okay, all the references up, you did a good job of smoothing it in. Granted, I would have liked the armor to be a little more of a mix, but I was going to let that slide. But then when they hit hard on this Halo CE style music, I'm like, okay, that's pushing it way too far.
I felt like it was cheesy for sure.
I don't know. It worked for me.
Yeah.
But that's a good time.
I like the older games, and I enjoyed playing the older games, and I still enjoy playing the older games. But I still want the new games to be its own game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to play Halo. I don't want to buy a new version of Halo CE.
Most people that I've seen talk about that music were really happy that it showed up. So I think we're in the minority, Dust.
Well, so that's a good time to bring up the I mean, in terms of actual concrete details, besides the release date, probably the most interesting concrete detail was that we got our new composer for this, Curtis
Yep.
Schweitzer. I was tootling around. He wins awards for actually having a decent website, which is pretty rare for composers. But he did Starbound. He's done, I mean, I would say niche indie stuff, and most of it sounds like little indie stuff. But I mean, there's some nice stuff in there. He's got sample clips on his website. I think he definitely, for the people who complain that Janucci leaned too much into strings and stuff for Halo 5, they're probably going to be disappointed because this guy does too. But I think he's got a fair amount of depth. They still, I feel bad because my boy Tom Salta, still always the bridesmaid, never the bride. He's done all these great B series soundtracks for Spartan Assault and Spartan Strike, which are amazing. But no one has played Spartan Assault and Spartan Strike, and so they don't know he did it. And his music's the best thing about the Fall of Reach adaptation too. So I'm sad he didn't get it.
The story sure isn't.
So I think the trailer did what it needed to. Is it showed, hey, here's your old classic Halo music, and here's a little bit of new stuff, and hey, it sounds like Halo. So don't freak out.
I just don't want them to rely on that too much.
It didn't feel jarring to me either. I'm just saying I see that they're putting a lot of classic stuff in there. I just don't want them to take it too far.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I really hope that with Janucci and Davidge gone, they still keep like the 117 theme. I really liked that. And I think
I love that theme.
Like, hey, Halo did not really have character themes until that, and that one's a really good one. So I hope they keep that one.
They seem really focused on trying to blend the two eras. I think that we'll see stuff survive from that.
I sure hope so.
Me too.
I just hope it. I mean, and I know they're still working on it, so there's obviously tweaks that could be done. It's just once it got to that point, that was the tipping point for me. It's like, okay, you're leaning too much on legacy Halo. That I think there's some other middle ground that could be obtained with the music style for the last minute of the trailer and the armor stuff. I feel like, yeah, there's aspects of it that kind of blend in some of the newer stuff, but it heavily relies on older stuff, and I thought there could have been a better blend there.
I feel like we're probably going to get a better blend, but a lot of it is going to be in terms of stuff they are not going to be deliberately showing because they want all the people who go on and on about iconic stuff to feel warm and fuzzy and happy.
They want positive press for now.
No, I'm looking forward to seeing how they actually
when they drop
blend the old and the new in the actual game itself.
Mm-hmm.
This is just a taste of what's to come. So I just want to make sure that it's a balanced approach.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I want to. I'm not opposed to the old stuff. I just want to make sure that the stuff that's been worked on for Halo 4 and Halo 5 for the folks that had just gotten into Halo at that point, there's a merging and a marrying up of the Bungie era and 343 era stuff, and not just completely saying, oh, we hear everyone wants legacy. It's like, no, if you want legacy, go back to legacy. Like keep progressing.
The thing.
Exactly. Keep progressing forward.
I generally agree. I think that the armor is certainly leaned a little too heavily into classic, but I don't know, it looks good, so I'm okay with it. But I hope that as we go forward and see more stuff, that we see more blending of old and new, for sure, and not just old.
I hope so too.
But I thought that what we see next after the holiday stuff was a good sign that there's going to be some blending.
Mm-hmm. So you want to talk about your ring thing?
So in this scene, you see Chief walking up, and he's approaching a holographic projection of the ring. And it is... Go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying it's totally a control room.
Yeah, and it's the control room. Yes, it's a modern, updated control room. It looks beautiful. It's amazing.
Well, all right. Here's where we
Okay.
quibble, because it looks like the CEA control room, where in one of the terrible things that Saber did, they got rid of the transparency to the walkway.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not over it. Yeah, it was 2011, but
No, I mean, if that
carry
was
on.
something you really liked, I think that's a fair thing to be. I've heard a lot of criticism about changes that were made in CEA, and I can see the validity in a lot
Well,
of it.
I don't blame a lot of them for it, because they had less than a year to
Yeah.
make the thing. And if you look at Halo 2 Anniversary, they did a much better job with it. So it sucks that it happened. I want the CEA, the Combat Evolved Anniversary to fix it in 2021. But anyhow,
Okay.
continue.
And so we see the ring break apart. And the thing that I found interesting is that so the ring to me looked like it isn't breaking apart because it was hit like by a big object or something like that. My original speculation on Twitter, which got Frank O'Connor to talk about it, he responded, is that I thought that the ring might have been fractured by a small object hitting it very fast at a low angle, and that's what caused like a crack in it, and then it snapped loose. But then he actually responded and he said, I'm just going to read verbatim. Remember that the ring is not inert and has agency over its construction and integrity to a point, and massively powerful field tech, not just for the atmosphere retention, but for aspects of the torsion and shear forces from orbit and rotation. Also, this will be a fun conversation post-game launch. It's meaningful. Naturally, a lot of this is sci-fi malarkey, but even some of our tropey conventions and hand-waving get thought through with care. So, if you look at it, and based on his response, I think obviously he's right, but I no longer think that it's been hit by something at high speed. And it looks so. The playback of the ring breaking apart, there's a downward motion for the part of the ring that's closest to you, and what I didn't consider originally was that was part of the replay. I thought that was just the holographic projection spinning around, but I think it's actually part of it, and the ring is being slung forward, and then it's trying to stop itself, and there's a sheer force that causes it to snap by it trying to stop itself from moving. And then you see that one side of the ring rip out and spin off. And I thought that was interesting, that kind of detail being put into the render.
Mm-hmm. Well, then the big thing, aside from the Halo ring, is that Master Chief is walking, takes the chip out, and Cortana, or Cortana, whatever you want to think about it, has her voiceover.
Which is pretty much a replay of the opening scene of Halo 3.
Basically.
Yeah.
So is the music.
Really close to it. The music and the dialogue.
She said, I picked you because you were special, and that we'd be perfect together. And then she says she was right.
The one thing I want to, and I just realized this afternoon, I was bored at work, so I watched Forward Unto Dawn. The very beginning, where they actually go through and they're showing Chief and Stasis, and they're kind of putting together the Cortana story part of Halo 4. At the very end, that scene is really reminiscent of what they put in this trailer, of Cortana kind of condensing herself back into her human form.
Yeah. That's a really good point.
And that could be what we're seeing here.
So something that Chrisley said during the Inside Xbox stream is that Chief is going to that control room to reconnect. That's all he said, was to reconnect.
Hey, Cortana, how's it going? Did you get my Facebook messages?
You mean Facebook?
Hopefully they have blood and violence in this one so that they don't have to have the teen rating.
You really think they're going to try to not get a teen rating in this?
I wish that they would go back to the blood, but I think it's likely to be a teen.
That's Halo. It probably is. But, you know, everybody really just wants naked Cortana.
Just her feet. One nifty little detail that I noticed in this part of the trailer, and this is a very tiny thing, but when Chief walks, you can actually see the leg armor kind of jiggle just a little bit. And I think that's a really nifty addition. Like it's when he steps, it
yeah, you can see the shock of when he puts his foot
and that
down.
is really realistic. That is a huge level of detail. Like to add, just crazy to me.
Yeah, this engine is absolutely amazing when it comes to at least playing video. But the tools that they've developed to get the assets into the engine are absolutely amazing as well. To be able to bring that level of detail into the engine.
I look forward to when I get it on PC and I can start poking around inside of it.
Yep. Which there will be insider programs for this. Hopefully later this year. I think we all hope we are.
Fingers crossed.
I promise I'll keep my mouth shut.
I feel like you're already doing a bad job.
I've only talked about what they've put in front of us publicly.
Oh, jeez. Is there anything else that you guys want to bring up that we either brushed over or missed before we wrap up this incredibly long podcast about a 5-minute trailer?
No, I think I'm finally done.
Yeah, there's lots of things I want to talk about, but I also want to go to bed.
I mean, we have to save something for the next however many months of low info.
Yep.
Yeah, we still got a year and a half of wait here.
Got to stretch that content
at least
out.
for most of it.
We've got MCC coming to PC, and we've got Outpost here in the few weeks. We're set for at least the next 3 months.
Yeah.
I'll be finishing another Halo book in a couple of weeks.
Which one?
Hunters in the Dark.
Oh, yeah, right.
I read half of it on the way over to Los Angeles, and then I had a red eye last night, so I was just trying to get as much sleep as I could on the plane, so I didn't read any. But I've got another 3 hours to finish.
Wait.
Book.
Does cyborg mean anything to you yet?
Does what?
Does cyborg mean anything to you yet?
No, he's not that far in.
Okay.
No.
I'm still an hour to the end of the book, and I'm not to that part yet.
I'm to the part where they just crashed on the Ark, and they're starting to wander to the center of the Ark.
Okay, you're in the Lord of the Rings section. All right.
Oh yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Okay, that's.
Wait, what? Did you say Lord of the Rings section?
Yeah.
They're on a journey. Yeah. Don't look into it too deeply. Yeah. They're on a journey. You'll get it afterwards.
Just read.
The Fellowship of the Ark.
Don't ruin it for him.
One of these days, I'm actually going to be able to talk about this stuff, and he'll actually understand what I'm talking about.
I'm working on it. I am working on it. And I've got how many flights coming out for Outpost I can read? I'm probably going to speed through like 3 or 4 books this summer.
Awesome.
You talk with
sure.
That's a good way.
Why is there not a Google Doc or something where we can follow along and see how far out you are?
Should probably make one, actually. Should probably make one. All right, I'll make one tomorrow.
And then
let's just put it this way. We just finished, let's see.
Bad Blood.
Well, we're doing
skip around,
in the
so
dark.
It's really hard to tell where you are now.
Well, I'm trying to get him to read books so that we can do the later books that refer back to the earlier books.
Yep, you got to get to those.
I'm working on it.
All right.
There's a goal in mind, so I'm working on it. All right. Fuchs, you want to give an update on where people can find you for those that may have not been around Last year you were on the show.
I've got a personal Twitter, but I don't do anything there. But I run the Forward Dawn onto Dawn Twitter at Forward Dawn, and we've got our own podcast. Our last episode with the live from the E3 showing dust.
Yep.
You want the prequel to this episode, and we got some other stuff coming down the pipe soon.
Very nice. And then I think most people will probably remember where Unikraken's from, but you want to give a shout out to all your stuff as well again?
Sure, yeah. You can find me personally on Twitter at Unikraken. And then, obviously, my affiliation is Sins of the Prophets. You can find us on Twitter at Sins of Prophets or sinsoftheprophets.com, or on Facebook, Facebook search Sins of the Prophets.
Wait, back up for a second. Who took Sins of the Prophets
It's too long.
on Twitter?
It's too long, yeah. So
it's just too long? Okay. I was about to say, what random person took that from you?
But, oh well. But yeah, pretty much if you type Sins of the Prophets into Google, the first several pages are us, and then it gets into some weird speculation about Islamic doctrine. So it's really easy to find anything for us.
The true spirit of Halo.
Do what?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh my!
They get really interested in the piety of the particular prophets that are dealt with in the Quran. I haven't really delved deep into it, but I did look at it once because I was curious about what would show up when you Googled us. But I guess not everybody was super pious, and some people made mistakes, and so that's a thing that they get focused on.
But who goes through more than one page of Google results? I think you're safe.
Oh yeah, normal people don't do that. Just me.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. Well, like we said at the beginning of the show, this one was strictly dedicated to Halo Infinite news. We'll talk more about Scarlet, the new Elite controller, Halo Reach on PC on next week's podcast, and there'll probably be a couple other little follow-up Halo articles that we'll talk about. So we'll catch up on all of those for next week, and we'll do our normal run around of catching up on housekeeping and other little news bits. So you can catch us on live stream for that on YouTube, Twitch, and Mixer. And then you can download the podcast anywhere you subscribe to podcasts, whether it's through iTunes, which is going away soon, Spotify, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, Stitcher, all those kinds of different places.
Are you on Luminary Dust?
I don't know what that is, so I don't know.
Yeah, with the latest people who are just trying to make money off podcasts. It's true.
Oh, some service.
The subways are filled with
their ads. You guys are there, right?
No.
Oh.
Who the hell? It's going to fail in 2 years. I'm not bothered with that.
Okay. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in to this episode. We'll catch you guys on the flip side. We'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming time, which will be Thursday at 9 p.m. for the live stream. Until then, keep on fragging Zeta Halo or wherever the hell we are.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.